Some retirees with over $2 million will run out of money before they die, while some with just $500,000 will live comfortably for 30 years. And no, it's not just about their spending. The difference is that the top 1% of retirees all have at least one of these 5 characteristics I'm going to show you today. Here's what most advisors won't tell you. One of these 5 elite types can retire successfully on probably half the money conventional wisdom says that you need. And I'll reveal which one in type number 5 of this video. But first, I want you to understand this. If you don't fall into at least one of these categories, you may be overestimating your true retirement readiness. The good news is that every single elite type is achievable. So forget everything you know about needing X million dollars to retire. That's kind of the old playbook. What I'm going to show you today is more about the actual framework that separates retirees who feel stressed from those who sleep soundly at night, regardless of their bank account. Make sure you stay focused because at the end of each type, I'm going to give you specific action items that you can implement immediately today. So type 1 is the debt-free homeowner. If you own your own home outright, you're in an incredibly fortunate position. You've eliminated your largest recurring expense, creating financial freedom that is almost impossible to overstate. Here's the math. If your mortgage payment would have been $2,500 a month, that's $30,000 a year. Using a 5% withdrawal rule, you need about $600,000 to generate that amount of income. So owning your home free and clear is equivalent to having an extra $600,000 in your portfolio. And we're not even accounting for taxes and everything that goes along with that. But it goes deeper. When housing is secured, you gain complete peace of mind knowing that your most essential need is covered regardless of what the market does. This psychological advantage alone puts you in the top 1%. A few key benefits of owning your own home is, 1, the home equity does become a strategic reserve that you can tap into, whether it's through a reverse mortgage, home equity loans, or maybe downsizing and netting the difference as profit. Second is real estate historically does slightly outpace inflation. So you kind of have a built-in hedge against inflation for that asset. And the third is geographic arbitrage opportunities. So you have the ability to relocate to a lower cost area and kind of bank the difference if it makes sense for you. But I'll be honest, we don't normally recommend relocating just to save modestly on taxes if that's the case. And the fourth is dramatically safer withdrawal rates, since you're not pulling as much from your investment accounts because you don't have a large mortgage payment to sustain. Now, a few action items, depending on your situation, are going to be 1, if you're 5 to 10 years out from retirement, look to see if it's possible to accelerate your mortgage payoff. Consider bi-weekly payments or applying your work bonuses directly to the principal of your mortgage. Feel free to run your numbers on paying off the mortgage versus investing that lump sum. Often the guaranteed return of eliminating debt tends to win unless your interest rate is maybe 2 or 3% range and you're comfortable holding on to the debt into retirement. Our second action item is if you're 1 to 3 years out from retirement, make sure you calculate your exact payoff date and align it to see when that falls within your retirement. You can consider the use of savings or investments for kind of paying off that final chunk if it's going to make you feel better, or you can keep your mortgage payment as is or increase it monthly by a little bit. And for all these different scenarios, I'll add a link in the description for a loan payoff calculator that I like to use so that you can run it yourself. Now, our third action item is if you're already retired and you still have a mortgage. 1 is it's good to constantly try to look to see if it does make sense to use a lump sum to pay off the mortgage. 1, you can look at the financial sense like we talked about, but then also the psychological sense of not having that large debt service in retirement. Before you do anything though, you're also going to want to review your cash reserves and see if there will be a tax impact of pulling the funds to pay off your mortgage. We want to avoid you trying to improve your retirement outlook and accidentally putting you in a worse position by accident. Then our fourth action item is if you're already debt-free, make sure you take a look at your home equity and how much your home is valued and what you might be able to pull if you needed a HELOC for an emergency fund backup. Now, our second type is the lifestyle optimizer. The lifestyle optimizer has mastered living richly on less, which is one of the most powerful wealth building skills of all. And this kind of reminds me of an old client, Marcus. He retired from the post office at age 64 with $3,200 a month in guaranteed income, roughly $150,000 in savings, and a modest paid off condo. He built a completely fulfilling lifestyle on about $2,800 a month. He did weekly golf with his buddies, volunteering at the community center, and spending time with his kids and soon-to-be grandkids. And the whole time, his investment accounts actually continued to grow, which was a welcome surprise for him. But he did all this while his friends were making twice as much and felt like they never had enough the whole time. See, Marcus was living proof that wealth isn't just about what you earn or what you have. It's the gap between what you have and what you need. And he was able to hold that line very well. Lifestyle optimizers underestimate their strength because they don't see themselves as wealthy. But because their expenses are naturally low, they need far less income than the conventional projections suggest. Whereas most people say, I need a minimum net of like 70 or 80,000 to live a modest lifestyle, optimizers can live on 40, 50, or $60,000 a year. The way they're able to do this is by ensuring a modest to conservative withdrawal rate from their portfolio, a slightly more conservative investment portfolio to protect them against market downturns, and really focusing on avoiding lifestyle creep, and maybe even potentially part-time work that they enjoy and they find fulfilling. Now, action steps to become an elite lifestyle optimizer is one, you really are going to have to track your actual spending. Look back at 1 or 2 or 3 months. You can use an app or a spreadsheet and identify your wants versus your needs, right? So most people overestimate what they're going to really need to spend in retirement by like 10 to 30%, depending, because a lot of times wants become needs and they're really not. Now, the second is to practice your retirement budget now if you're still working. Live your projected retirement income for 3 to 6 months while you're still working and try to bank the difference and see how it feels. Now, the third action item is to eliminate 3 high-cost, low-value items. Whether it's your cable package, unused subscriptions, maybe it's an expensive car payment, and try to redirect that savings to your retirement accounts. Now, the fourth action item is to find your enough number. You're going to do this by calculating your minimum comfortable lifestyle. Not deprivation, but intentional living. This becomes kind of your floor, giving you incredible flexibility if things go awry and you know where you can drop back to, spending-wise. Now, our third type is the guaranteed income elite. If you have a pension, you own a personal money printing machine, essentially. It's recession-proof wealth that arrives like clockwork every single month to your bank account. My clients with pensions often undervalue the advantage that they have, while ironically those without pensions consistently talk about how valuable they are. Here's why. A $2,500 monthly pension equates to about $600,000 portfolio using the same 5% withdrawal rate that we looked at earlier. Except it's better than $600,000 in stocks or bonds or whatever it might be because it doesn't go down. It never needs rebalancing and it doesn't run out as long as it's insured. Granted, the largest risk to having a pension is when there's no COLA or cost of living adjustment. Over the years, inflation is going to eat away your purchasing power of each dollar you receive from your pension. But the power lies in what it can eliminate. Uncertainty. You have zero sequence of returns risk like you do with the market. You can sleep well at night knowing that your money's going to be there in your bank account next month. And your ability to invest the remaining assets in your portfolio more aggressively allows you to hopefully offset the lack of the cost of living adjustment if that's the case. Now, a few action items if you do have guaranteed income are going to be one, know your pension details. Know your monthly benefit amount, your COLA adjustments, the survivor benefits that you might have, whether you have the option for a lump sum withdrawal or an annuity option, and just make sure to review all this. And if you need to, you can request an official benefit statement from your employer. Now, the second is to optimize your election. Compare single life versus joint and survivor options. If you're married and have a spouse, you can consider the different spousal ages and life expectancy when making that decision. And make sure you run the numbers on a COLA if you have it versus the higher initial benefit. I just recently released a deep dive video on pensions and what you need to know before electing. So if you want, jump over to my channel and it should be one of the first couple videos there. Now, the third action item is to leverage it for more aggressive investing if it makes sense for you. Since your essential expenses are more than likely covered, you can take more calculated risks with your remaining portfolio, as long as that type of allocation supports your retirement plan, right? There's no point to take risk if it's not needed. And now our fourth action item is if you don't have a pension, you can create your own, kind of. By maximizing your Social Security filing strategy, you can build a reliable and predictable income stream by doing like a bond ladder within your portfolio. Or in some rare cases, you can consider how an immediate annuity might support your financial goals. Just be wary of anyone leading with a product over a plan and strategy. Now, our fourth type is the tax efficiency master. Tax efficiency masters keep 20 to 40% more wealth than their peers through strategic planning. Most retirees overpay tens of thousands of dollars over retirement without even realizing it. Because it's not about how much you have, it's really about how much you keep. Now, let me tell you about Richard and Susan. They each retired at 64 with $1.8 million saved between the two of them. But here's what set them apart from their peers. They understood that investment selection is part of their tax strategy. While their neighbors held actively managed mutual funds that threw off unexpected capital gain distributions every year, Richard and Susan restructured their taxable accounts years earlier. They held individual dividend-paying stocks and low-turnover ETFs, investments that they had more control over than just a mutual fund. When they needed to raise cash, they chose which positions to sell and could harvest losses to offset gains depending on what the market was doing. Their neighbors, well, they just got hit with more tax bills whether they sold anything or not, and even when the market was down. But tax efficiency went deeper than just their investments. Richard and Susan had a withdrawal sequence strategy that saved them six figures over the first 2 decades of retirement. From 60 to 68, they lived primarily off their taxable account and some Roth savings. It allowed their Social Security benefit to continue to grow, but it also kept their health insurance premiums low prior to Medicare because their modified adjusted gross income was also low. Then they're able to keep their income low enough to avoid IRMA surcharges on their Medicare premiums, saving them thousands of dollars annually all through the first decade or two of retirement. Now at 68, they filed for Social Security, and then at 73, when RMDs kicked in, they were ready for them because they strategically filled up the 12% tax bracket with micro Roth conversions during their low income years before their RMDs started. Now, that's just an example, and I'm not saying that's a recommended strategy for everyone, but here's the move that also surprised a lot of people is once their RMDs did start, they donated a portion of their RMDs directly to charities that they cared about through qualified charitable distributions or QCDs. See, the money never showed up as taxable income for them. It satisfied their RMD requirement from their IRAs, and they supported causes that they really cared about. Meanwhile, their friends were taking their RMDs they didn't need, paying taxes on them, and then writing checks to the charities that they cared about, getting almost no tax benefit because they were also taking the standard deduction, so they couldn't itemize that. So Richard and Susan were very proactive and were rewarded with the tax benefits that come along with that. Like I said, they didn't have more money than their peers. They just kept more of what they had. Now, a few action items, if you're not like Richard and Susan, are going to be one, audit your taxable account holdings. Mutual funds with high turnover generate taxable events that you can't control. So try to strategically reduce your exposure to them with individual stocks or tax-efficient ETFs. This can be done by selling and realizing capital gains from your mutual fund positions, or by taking the mutual fund capital gain distributions at year-end in cash and reinvesting them into ETFs or stocks. Now, the second action item is to master tax loss harvesting. In down markets, look to sell positions at a loss or at least less of a gain to offset gains everywhere else. Then you can immediately buy a similar but not identical investment to maintain your asset allocation exposure. Now, our third action item is going to be to build a withdrawal sequence roadmap that reviews all of your different asset types, your income sources, and then layers them appropriately to support the lifestyle that you want to live in the most tax-efficient manner possible. And our fourth action item is to understand IRMA thresholds. In 2025, single filers over $103,000 and joint filers with over $206,000 in their modified adjusted gross income pay Medicare surcharges. Make sure you're trying to stay below these thresholds if you can, because even $1 above the threshold makes you pay the entire premium surcharge. And don't forget that IRMA uses income from 2 years prior, so you always got to be looking 2 years back for the premium surcharge you might be paying this year. And our fifth action item is to give strategically, not just emotionally. If you're charitably inclined and over 70 and a half, like I said, use QCDs or qualified charitable distributions from your IRA instead of just writing checks. You're going to satisfy your RMD and exclude it from your taxable income, and you're going to maximize your tax benefit even with the standard deduction if you don't itemize. Now, if this type of detailed tax planning resonates with you and you feel like you'd enjoy a flat fee planning engagement, click the link in the description to book a call with my team. We'll see if we're a good fit. Now, our fifth and final type is the adaptive strategist. Adaptive strategists are in the top 1%, not because of their portfolio size, because they possess the rarest skill, strategic flexibility. While rigid retirees become prisoners to their own plan, adaptive strategists thrive by making intelligent adjustments. The more you think you need, the less secure you're going to be when it comes to market downturns, health changes, or economic shifts. Because at the end of the day, flexibility is going to create more options for you. Options are going to reduce stress, preserve your capital, and keep your goals and your lifestyle that you want to lead intact. Now, this might mean downsizing to free up some equity from your home, maybe geographic arbitrage like we talked about, temporarily tightening spending during volatility in the market, or adjusting your discretionary expenses without feeling deprived. Now, the paradox is that the adaptive strategists often retire successfully with a fraction of the assets that rigid retirees need, because the flexibility within itself is a sense of wealth. It's a safety net that allows navigating uncertainty without compromising your total quality of life. So a perfect example of how adaptive strategists can retire earlier and live fully on less is by using a risk-based guardrail system for their retirement income. This is the system that we run for our clients, and It's so powerful because it allows you to spend more in the earlier years of your retirement when you're younger, healthier, and more active, with the understanding that if the market pulls back, you know exactly when and by how much to adjust your spending downward. Now, it's not a major reduction, but a slight correction. And that's really all you need to maintain the integrity of your portfolio over any type of down market. Now, the action items here are going to be: one, to create a 3-tier spending plan. Take a look at your expenses and categorize them by essential. So that's going to be your housing, food, healthcare. And then you can do flexible, which is going to be your dining, entertainment, hobbies. And then you'll have discretionary, which is going to be travel, maybe gifting to your kids or grandkids, or luxuries. And so that way you know exactly where you can reduce your spending in certain categories without feeling pain. Now, the second action item is to implement risk-based guardrails for your retirement income. When markets are down, know when and by how much to cut. And that takes so much pressure and anxiety off you, especially during times of market volatility. And now the inverse of that, when the markets go up, you're going to know when and by how much you're going to actually increase your spending. Now, the third action item is to avoid lifestyle lock-in. Don't buy the biggest house that you can afford or a brand new car with a very expensive monthly payment, and try to keep your recurring costs low, because the less that you're locked into these recurring expenses, the more flexible you can be. And now our fourth action item is to practice adaptability now. Do a flexibility drill once a year where you practice living on 10 to 20% less than you normally do for 1 month. Identify what you actually missed versus what was just kind of a habit and you didn't really need. See, building this muscle before you need it is actually really important. So there you have it, the 5 types of retirees in the top 1%. Not because of their net worth or their investable assets, but because of advantages that create true financial security. So let's recap. You have the debt-free homeowner who has a financial fortress. You have the lifestyle optimizer that lives richly on less. You have the guaranteed income elite who has a money printing machine. You have the tax efficiency master that keeps 20 to 40% more of his wealth. You have the adaptive strategist that is financially anti-fragile. The real 1% has security. They have options and peace of mind. Net worth matters less when you have these elite qualities. So I hope you found value in today's video and it helped resonate with you, different ways that you can help maximize and secure your retirement. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.